Crystal Palace against Chelsea. Yet another difficult game for the Blues as we go to one of our bogey teams in Palace, who have been in decent form recently, beating Manchester City and keeping 3 consecutive home clean sheets. But Chelsea, with most likely Hazard as the false line again, even with some of our wingers being injured, do still go into the game as the favourites, as rumour Loftus-Cheek could start on the wing, while rumours about the Cesc Fabregas exit get stronger and stronger. To find out everything you need to know about both sides ahead of the game, make sure you watch all of this preview. Hello there guys and welcome back to 100% Chelsea for my preview of the Crystal Palace versus Chelsea game taking place on Sunday, well afternoon, but early afternoon. It's the early kickoff and it's another Premier League game, it's the Christmas season, it's, games coming thick and fast. There's no easy Europa League games or cup games in between. It's one Prem game after the other and it's tough, but we all love it. We kind of all love this period, even though it's kind of hard work for us here as a YouTube channel, but we still love it. It's exciting. Of course, this is the preview. There will be a review, there will be fan cams, a vlog, all sorts of content surrounding the game. So if you don't want to miss out on any of that, do make sure you subscribe to 100% Chelsea, and also let's see whether we can hit 400 or more likes on this video. That would be massively appreciated. So do make sure you smash the like button down below. I would just basically love you for it. But now getting into the preview, starting it off by speaking about our opposition, and that is obviously Crystal Palace, who currently sit in 14th on 19 points from 19 games played, with 5 wins, 4 draws and 10 defeats, and a goal difference of -8, scoring just 17 but conceding 25, which, conceding 25 isn't awful. It's not great, but it's acceptable for where they are. But only scoring 17 goals, that's really not great, and it puts them joint 3rd worst team when it comes to scoring goals, I'm pretty sure, unless I misread the table. But, it's definitely not great, only scoring 17 goals in 19 games. And, Crystal Palace generally, they just get some weird results. Like, they got a draw at Old Trafford, for example, but then they lost to both Brighton and West Ham. But then they beat Leicester and Man City. They beat Man City 3-2 away at the Etihad with an absolute banger by Andros Townsend, probably goal of the season, an absolute screamer that goal was. And then when, after beating Man City, they went back home basically in their home game against Cardiff and drew 0-0, against Cardiff. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't Boxing Day then. So, when I say strange results, I mean strange results. Some of them just don't make much sense. Now, we first and obviously last played them on November 4th, beating them 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. While we did dominate the game against them, on all accounts, basically, possession, chances created, shots, and obviously, the final result as well, winning the game 3-1, it was still a tricky game, especially until Eden Hazard was subbed on, after around an hour, after just returning from injury. Until then, they just equalised, basically, after we took the lead earlier on. So, it was a tricky game. Only when he came on, we kind of did take full control and obviously won the game. But, chances are he's starting on Sunday, so, should in theory be fine, I guess? I don't know. Now, the biggest change to Crystal Palace compared to when we played them in November is their home form. Out of their last 3 home games now, they won 2 and drew the other one, but keeping a clean sheet in all 3 of them, although, to be fair, we have to say that 2 of their opponents were Cardiff, like I said, and Burnley, who both score just as little goals as Palace do, really. So, keeping clean sheets against them isn't their most incredible achievement, but it's still, 3 consecutive home clean sheets is pretty decent. Now, their best and most dangerous player is obviously still Wilfried Zaha, but although he was man of the match in the goalless draw against Cardiff in midweek, he hasn't scored since September 15th against Huddersfield, and, still only stands on 3 goals. So, that really isn't great. Not scoring since September if you're the most dangerous player of a team is not exactly, a good omen for your team, but, they still managed to beat Man City, so fair play. Zaha does also have 3 assists, but that's not all that many either, to be honest. He is their best player, and even he's not, producing much at the moment. But, then you have Luka Milivojevic as the top goal scorer with 5 goals, but 4 of them have come from the penalty spot. I don't know for sure, but I'd assume that Zaha probably won most of them. I guess he's still influential. Again, I don't know whether he actually won all of those penalties, but, the top scorer is Milivojevic with 5 goals. Like I said, 4 from the penalty spot. And then you have 3 other players in Jeffrey Schlupp, Andros Townsend and Zaha, obviously, like I said, who are on 3 goals, who are obviously their main danger man. You could say those 4. Milivojevic is a good player, even though he only scores from the penalty spot. But also, Patrick Van Aanholt, obviously the former, Chelsea player, if you will, at left back. He's a very good player and does obviously, take his part in their attacking play as well. Now, formation-wise, at the start of the season, they did tinker around with it a little bit. They've been set on using a 4-4-2 with mostly Zaha and Townsend up front together. They've been using that for quite a while now. Obviously, kind of a lot of interchanging. You could define it as a 4-4-1-1 or, even a 4-2-3-1. But, sometimes Zaha moves out wide, sometimes Townsend does. So it's kind of a little bit of a fluctuate, 4-4-2, but officially it's still a 4-4-2. So, well, we of course should be more than capable of beating Palace on Sunday. any team that beat Manchester City at the Etihad is a team to watch out for. Even if they had way less chances than City did, and even if they only had 20% of the ball, well, barely 20% of the ball. So, even though all of those things were the case, they still beat them. So, we have to be wary of them. So, there's definitely no debate in that. Plus, keeping 3 consecutive clean sheets at home will also give them some extra confidence. So, it certainly makes for yet another tricky game for us. And I really do say this every week at the moment, but it just will be a tricky game. With that being it about Crystal Palace, let's get into Maurizio Sarri's pre-match press conference. And first of all, he spoke about team news and did confirm that both Pedro and Hudson-Odoi did suffer hamstring injuries in the game against Watford. Pedro will, is a little bit more serious. Will have to rest for around 10 days. And Hudson-Odoi's, hamstring problem isn't all that serious, but Sarri isn't sure whether he'll be able to play against Palace. I assume he won't. Might make the bench. I doubt it though, but I'm pretty sure he won't start. And about Alvaro Morata, the boss did say that he is actually fully fit, and he was also fully fit against Watford, but he was simply left out, of that game for tactical reasons. To be honest, that's actually understandable to me, not because he dislikes Morata, for me anyway, even though he still might be, leaving in January, but it just makes sense because when you have Hazard up front, Morata, out of our 2 actual strikers, is a lot closer to Hazard as a type of player. So, if you play Hazard down the middle in the first place, you prefer Giroud on the bench just to give you a completely different option to bring on if you do need it. So, that's why it does make sense. And it also does sound like Andreas Christensen, should be back from his hamstring problem that he picked up, a couple of weeks ago because, he simply wasn't mentioned when asked about team news. So he seems to be fine, I guess. Sarri then confirmed again that he really likes Hazard playing as the false 9, also saying that as a team, it makes us more solid defensively to have Hazard up front, which, in the first place, you might think, well, why is that? But I'm just assuming now he's mainly talking about, pressing, which Hazard obviously is a lot better at and obviously works hard at it as well. And he's obviously a lot better at it than especially Olivier Giroud, simply because, Hazard is a lot quicker and to press, well, you need to have at least some sort of pace. But he's also better than Morata, at least to some extent. So I'm assuming that's where it comes from. I don't think it has any other implications on our defensive, stability. I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm assuming. And Sarri then also said that he thinks it's time for a decision by Hazard, but also kind of the club about whether or not, the player will sign a new contract. Now, he did say he won't speak, to the player about it because he's the coach and not the president or the owner of the club. But, he still wants something to basically happen there. And I do get what he means. It's basically so Chelsea can react to whatever Hazard's decision may be. So if he decides to stay, great. But then we still need to figure out, how we can actually pay more of that money, obviously with financial fair play and all of that. And, if he doesn't, we need to obviously plan ahead. How do we replace him? How much money do we ask for him? All of that kind of stuff. So it does make sense why, Sarri wants a decision. And obviously, I'm sure the club wants a decision as well. But in my opinion, at least, Eden Hazard has earned the right to, take at least until the summer, I guess, to make that decision. Basically, not take longer than the summer, but until the upcoming summer. Obviously, I think he has earned the right to take up until then to make that decision. And lastly, the boss also stated that he expects a very tricky game at Selhurst Park, and noted that Palace, obviously, like I just told you, have kept the 3 consecutive clean sheets at home, while also being very dangerous on the counter attack, which obviously, though, how else would there have been Man City with only 20% of the ball? But yeah, that was it from the press conference. And now coming to Chelsea and obviously the lineup as well. And to be honest about the lineup, I'm just sat here totally guessing if Sarri will do some rotating this time round after fielding the exact same 11 in the last 2 games, or whether he'll do the same again. I have absolutely no idea. Are some of the players tired? I don't know. Obviously, we have, a few injuries in Pedro and Hudson-Odoi, so we'll have to do, change around somewhat. But will we change just for fatigue reasons to be fresher for Southampton, obviously on the 2nd of January? Or, what will we do? I just have absolutely no idea. Realistically, Kepa, Rudiger and David Luiz will start again. Even if Christensen is back fit. I mean, the centre-backs don't run as much as other players do, so they shouldn't be as tired, I guess. Azpilicueta is an absolute machine and probably just fine to play, so I expect him to do so. On the other side, Marcos Alonso, he does tend to get tired, from time to time when he plays too many games in a row, basically, with midweek games. So I could see Emerson getting a game finally in the Premier League, a start finally in the Premier League. I do hope so. I've been saying this for a few games now. So hopefully we'll see that. I think we might, but of course it's never a guarantee and it could just be Alonso again. But the midfield is where it's a lot more interesting. Surely, in my opinion, Kante has to start again. He's an absolute machine, barely even human. Man's not tired, he has to start. But whether Jorginho or Fabregas will get the start is an interesting one. Jorginho, in my opinion, had a very, very good game against Watford. Showed exactly why he plays in that position and not N'Golo Kanté. Plus, the rumours about Cesc Fabregas and the club having agreed to terminate, his contract 6 months before it actually expires in the summer and, allowing him to leave now in January. And, those rumours are getting quite a bit stronger over the last few days even today especially. Now, if that is the case, will he play tomorrow? Will he get kind of a last game or whatever if he doesn't, say, play against Southampton or something? It would make sense, to me at least. I mean, I'd hope he'd play. I mean, I'd also hope he'd play anyway, simply because, Jorginho needs to get a break here or there. He needs to have a break somewhere because we need him fresh and at his best against Spurs and Arsenal. We played him in a few weeks' time. So, give Jorginho a break, I'd say. And, I just love Fabregas. He's a great guy. We share some great moments together, obviously, at Chelsea. He pissed off a lot of Arsenal fans when he came, to Chelsea, which was great in the first place. And he also most certainly wears a magic hat. So, I'd really love for him to get like one more game, basically starting one more game before he leaves, if he does leave. But by the way, I still have to say quickly, I hope that he doesn't leave. Not because, I love him so much and he needs to stay at the club because he's so great. Not necessarily. I mean, I do think that for that Regista role, he's a great backup to have at the club. But from a Chelsea point of view, it doesn't make any sense. Like, January's already going to be hectic enough. Most likely going to sign a striker. Probably, possibly get rid of Morata in some shape or form. Maybe a winger. And then we also need to replace Fabregas, which is not an easy position to replace at all. That Regista role, there's not that many players that can fill that role. So, it's tricky enough as it is. So how about we just keep him until his contract actually runs out in the summer, and then we can replace him there. I mean, I'm sure Fabregas, would be able to deal with it. He's a, exceptional professional, so I'm sure he'd be fine. And I'm rambling on about this way too long, but, I hope for Fabregas to start tomorrow, but, it might just as well be Jorginho. But Fabregas and Kante, alongside who? Spoiler, I think Loftus-Cheek will start on the wing. So, as that third midfielder, it's basically between Kovacic and Ross Barkley. Now, Kovacic, in my opinion, also had a really good game against Watford. So, if he's not tired, I'd say start him again. If he is, obviously play Fabregas, I guess. Play Barkley, I guess. But, if he isn't, go with him again. He did well. He deserves to play again, in my opinion. But then coming to the front three, like I said, I do think Loftus-Cheek will start on the wing with Pedro and Chelsea Hudson-Odoi being out injured. And as Sarri seems to really like Hazard, playing down the middle, I just don't think he'll change Hazard playing down the middle unless he really, really has to. And right now, he doesn't necessarily have to because Loftus-Cheek, for example, against Bournemouth in the Cup, played on the wing and had a really good game. And also Moses is definitely not going to play. So, Willian is going to be on the right. I mean, obviously in theory, it could be Morata, it could be Giroud and, just Willian and Hazard either side. But I just have a feeling that Loftus-Cheek starting on the wing is more likely as, Sarri just likes Hazard down the middle. So this is the lineup that I think we're most likely to see, obviously start on Sunday against Palace. Kepa Arrizabalaga in goal, a back four, Cesar Azpilicueta as the right back, Emerson Palmieri as the left back, Antonio Rudiger and David Luiz as the two centre backs, a midfield three of Cesc Fabregas, N'Golo Conte and Mateo Kovacic, or maybe Ross Barkley, but probably, I'd say, if he's fine, Mateo Kovacic, and then a front three of Willian on the left, Ruben Loftus-Cheek on the right, and Hazard down the middle as the false nine, if you will. Now, recently it's been a matter of actually playing all right, not great maybe, but playing all right, but just not taking our chances and leaving the game open for way, way, way too long, which makes us nervous as fans and obviously the players too, and builds the opponent's confidence and just builds them up. So, it makes, games end up a lot more tricky and a lot more nervy than they actually need to be. Like, in so many games, against Brighton, we missed the sitter to not make it 3-0. Against Watford, we had good chances to make it 3-1, way before the last few minutes of the game. So we could have killed those games. Also against Leicester, we obviously Hazard hit the bar and stuff. So we could have killed those games, or at least we could have, turned the game in one direction in Leicester's case. But we didn't. So that's mainly what we need to change, because the build-up play recently has been quite decent. Also defensively, even though we haven't kept that many clean sheets, has been quite decent. Like, the goals we've conceded weren't huge defensive errors or something. They were just either good goals or just things that happen, kind of like a free goal. Like that Pereira volley goal at the back, I think we're kind of decent recently. The midfield is okay, moving a bit more, passing a little bit quicker, but the finishing and the wingers and just how many people get into the box is our main issue. So I hope that we can change that. Whether we will or not, let's see. I mean, it would be great to go into halftime with a 2-goal lead and then score another goal straight after halftime. That would be ideal, and then we can basically already go home with the 3 points, because once we have a 3-goal lead, a Palace, they're not going to come back, I think, anyway. I mean, let's be honest. But obviously, the same as ever still applies. Move well, move a lot, pass quickly, press well, create chances, and bloody take those chances. I mean, that's obviously the most important thing. And obviously also don't make silly mistakes at the back. Well, don't make silly mistakes anywhere on the pitch, but especially at the back. And even though we almost always seem to struggle at Selhurst Park at Crystal Palace, today, on Friday afternoon, for whatever reason, I'm feeling pretty confident and I think that we'll get the win. I don't know, I just have a feeling that we'll finally be able to actually kill a game off, which would be great. and win either like 3-0 or maybe 3-1. So I put my money on the 3-1 win. That would obviously be lovely. 3-0 even better, but I'll be fine with 3-1. But yeah, that's really it for me. Leave me all of your thoughts ahead of the game down in the comment section below. Your predicted lineups, your score predictions down in the comment section below as well. Like I said in the beginning, let's see whether we can hit 400 or more likes in this video. That would be massively appreciated. So do make sure you smash the like button down below. Also, don't forget to check out my social media, which is Last1507 on both Instagram and Twitter, as you can see over here. And also the links to both of them are down in the description below. So if you could follow me over there, I would absolutely love you for it. And of course, this is YouTube, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to 100% Chelsea, and also don't forget to hit the notification bell button and choose to be notified about all uploads so you don't miss any of the future videos. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, looking forward to the game, and I'll see you next time.